Bunnycast 51 Part 2, The Cute Ninja is back. Yes, we do a review of the Comic-Con that happened this year, 2011. Also, we do some reviews. Stay tuned today on the Bunnycast. This is the Bunnycast Network.
Kick it home, Philly.
Now, this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down. So here's my little ponytail. It's quite a frill. I'll tell you how I became princess of a town called Ponyville. In West Philadelphia, born and raised, but Canterlot is where I spent most of my days, herding it and nerding it, relaxing with the fillies, reading up on prophecies were giving me the willies. When I read about a mare, she was up to no good, plotting to bring eternal darkness to the neighborhood. So I mentioned it to the princess, and she got all ill. She told me,
"Pack your books and get your butt to Ponyville."
I whistled for a chariot, and when it came near, the Pegasi were fresh, and they had dice on their rears. If anything, I could say that this chariot was fit chill, but I thought, nay, forget it. Cronies to Ponyville. And I mucked up, but never mind, let's go with that.
Sounds good. Welcome back to Bunnycast Part 2 of Episode 50.
Yay.
Thank you. I am your host, Dan Helen. We have Squato. Also, again, it's Lord Killerfish, a.k.a. the Anti-Squato. And joining us for this second half is the Cute Ninja.
Hello.
Once again, for those who are tuning in late, the Bunnycast is the official podcast of the Bunny Community. The Bunny Community is the official fan community of Elgun Shive. Elgun Shive is the official comic of Dan Shive. Dan Shive and the comic have nothing to do with the Bunnycast. It's complicated. Just go read the comic. Enjoy it.
Yeah, so we're connected to the comic, but we don't officially have anything to do with the comic, apart from on Wednesdays when we do. Gotcha.
It's the Disney version of things.
And again, Squato's confused me. All right, let's jump straight into our discussion segment. Of course, this is our first recording after Comic-Con, which is part of why we have the Cute Ninja here. The Cute Ninja generally tends to retain things a lot better than I do.
This may be because you are absolutely bone-tired by the time Comic-Con is finished, and you're existing solely on energy drinks.
Yes, exactly.
You make it sound like a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, it's just that's the way it is. So, the Cute Ninja, why don't you go ahead and start regaling us with tales of this year's past Comic-Con, and I'll jump in when my memory says, "Oh, hey, what about this?"
Well, this year was really awesome. It doesn't happen every year, but there was the Star Wars Fan Film Festival, and that was quite fun. We even took Mini Goddess to it, and she would look up at the screen, and every time stormtroopers appeared, she'd say, "Wobot!" Wobot! She had a good time until she fell asleep. And we were able to get into the Doctor Who panel.
I remember the last time I went to one of those. I went up to ask a question, and then somebody asked it before me. So I was
no!
Shame.
Yeah,
were you actually in the line before for the Doctor Who panel?
Yeah.
Me or
yeah?
No.
Ooh, because what they did for the people that were actually waiting in line for the Doctor Who panel before it actually went in was they actually handed out burritos to everyone because they were hungry and they'd been waiting a while. Who was the one handing it out? Kerry. Actually, he was with it, but it was the cast of Doctor Who.
Cool. I had heard about the burritos, but I had a handicap sticker on my badge, so I was able to get into the line a lot quicker at the very end.
So basically, we jumped the line.
And that's what you missed out on, jumping the line.
But
You missed out on Matt Smith burritos.
when we got into the line, they had already put the cast into the room, and they were already talking.
Yeah, no, because this looks like it was basically it happened before. Well, it's not long after they got there, but before they actually went in to set it up. So, how long would you say that it would take Hall H to really set up itself?
I have no idea. I've never worked in that department before.
So I just sort of wondering with Homer because he's meant to be the veteran.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not sure what you're asking. It kind of got muffled.
I was saying, how long would it take for them to do a setup so that they've got everything prepared? Everyone sort of that's going to be like
to get the panel ready for it to start.
Oh, it's just minutes because with those rooms, it's already set up. You just get the people. So call it 10 minutes or so. Yeah, something like that.
All right, talking about things which are in your department, Jolene, hospitality suites, locusts or non-locusts this year?
Locusts.
Is it still following the same pattern?
Yes, and it's over in the Marriott. I think I know for sure one of the times you came, it was over at another hotel. But they now have it in the hotel that's right next door to the convention center, so we don't have to walk a block or two down the street. It's just right next door. We did have some problems in my department this year. In fact, a lot, because we usually would some of the supplies that we use to help take care of staff was now purchased this year from the convention center, and the convention center screwed a lot of things up, and so there were a lot of fires to put out.
Not literally, I hope.
No, but it sure felt like it. But
I was going to just point out that anybody who's been listening to previous Comic-Con Bunnycasts, I've mentioned my theory that the hospitality suite works on a 2-year circuit, where 1 year there'll be a lot of people going into the hospitality suite and it's like a plague of locusts, and then the next year it'll be a lighter load. And apparently this year was a locust year, so...
Well, actually last year was as well. The thing is, what's happening is that more things are in the hotel next door as well.
Yeah.
So people are seeing that it's there, and they say, food, free soda, I have to go there.
Well, what you should do then is instead of setting up in a hotel, set it up in a couple of boxes around the back of the convention centre where nobody really goes.
Change!
That could be a problem. We couldn't monitor people as they come and go, which is very important.
Well, that's why it's in the boxes.
Yes.
Well, what's really funny is that I was in the gaming room right next door to the hospitality suite, and one of the people I was gaming with, they said, "Oh, I need to go to the snack room and get some snacks. I'll be right back." The snack room? You mean the con suite? Oh, I don't know what it's called. It's just where you get snacks, and I'll bring some back for you guys if you want. I said, "You can't leave with the food. You might be able to leave with a soda, but you cannot leave with the food." They have people monitoring that. Oh, I looked, and it didn't look like there's someone there. Do you think anyone would tell? I said, I work in that department. Yes, I would tell. I'm telling you now, so you will not do it.
What's the bet that people, even after they've been told that, will attempt to try doing it anyway?
Yes,
they will.
And it's really sad when they have to either turn around and go back and eat their food in the room, or they have to give it up. So
No, not my precious trail mix.
Not even that, just the chips and salsa.
we even had signs made up this year, special signs saying, "Do not use cups other than for water," because some people use the cups to pick up like a mountain of the M&Ms or stuff like that. So.
That's just taking it too far. I mean, I once walked around with a huge, massive, great big pile of them in my hands, but that's just expected, really.
Right, but anyway, yeah, people forget that there are other people coming, and it's open until 2 a.m, so it's got to last for so many days, from 5 to 2. It's like, goodness. Yeah, it was very crazy. Luckily, my shift is usually in the early evening right before it opens, and I help prepare the vegetables and stuff like that, so that when the vegetable trays go out, everything's already cut up and ready to go.
I'm willing to bet that there was a lot of vegetables left over afterwards.
Actually, no, that's actually some of the first things to go. And there are actually people saying that we're being prejudiced against healthy food or even orange foods.
How can you be prejudiced against a food group?
Yeah.
Well, not just the food group, the food color.
Right. First, they didn't mention that there were any carrots there, because there's always carrots on the vegetable trays. And they also, they were like, "We want oranges. We see apples, but you used to have oranges." Well, that's not what we get anymore. We get apples because, this is what the budget will allow. No, you need to get oranges. Why are you so prejudiced against orange foods?
What?
Why aren't you providing more healthy food? And I'm thinking, whoa, wait a minute. This is free food. What the heck are you complaining about?
Some people will complain about anything. Give them an inch and they will pull it for a year.
To be fair, if it was bananas, you would have had people complaining on that. And I do make the joke because of how much bananas have gone up in Australia over the last 6 months. And by gone up, I mean the bananas are over 700% what they were not this time 6 months ago.
Wow.
That's what happens when you have a major flooding disaster and then a major cyclone hits your major growing area.
Yes, we have no bananas.
But anyway, one of the really cool panels that I went to this year was actually about an 11-year-old boy who, the title of the panel was "The Holocaust Through the Eyes of a Child by a Child." And it was an animated short film about a lady who escaped from a concentration camp when she was 8 years old. And it's narrated by her. And this boy of 11 years old animated that experience of her life. And it was made into a movie.
Oh, so it's not that depressing one from a couple of years ago.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Most people don't.
Anyway, this is a brand new film. It hasn't even been released or even sold yet, I don't think. It's about Ingrid Pitt, who is a famous British actress who, when she was 8 years old, she escaped from a concentration camp. And later in life, she became a famous actress. Many of you may have seen Where Eagles Dare. Mm. She was one of the actresses in that. And she was very famous for her. She was in a lot of horror films where vampires and mummies and stuff like that.
So classic British schlock.
How dare you me that?
Come on, where do you think most of the Star Wars cast were able to get their start from?
Okay.
And the film, I was able to just recall it. It's for anyone that is interested, the one I refer to as the depressing one. It's the boy with the striped pajamas.
Oh, that was a good one. That was
It
really
is, but it's depressing. Very.
But it's not actually based on a true story. It's a historical fiction.
Yes. But there is a level of reality they did actually put into the film, but was
Right,
So
but it's still a historical fiction. This was based on true life. This is what happened to somebody.
So,
Yeah.
if something is a historical fiction, does that make it real life fan fiction? Sorry, shouldn't have gone there.
But it was really cool. I know I was so busy this convention that I didn't even get around to all the tables that I wanted to. There was a new table I discovered that was called Schoolism, and it's actually a graphic arts school online. And most of the teachers are big names in the business. In fact, there's a heavy number of them that are from Pixar. So,
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's very cool. And when you do homework and turn it in, they analyze it and maybe do tweaks or suggestions, and they videotape themselves doing this. So when you get it back, you can see exactly what they did if you want to do whatever their tweak was to it.
I love if they get annoyed with someone enough to actually slap the camera, because I love to see the reaction to someone's view going, "You're this bad, I'm slapping the camera to get you."
Now, I don't know if they're live webinars or if they're videotaped classes, so I don't know.
Yeah, it might be one for if anyone's interested to look into a bit more. We've got the name for them.
Well, I'm interested because I'm actually going into that field. So, and I watched the demo that the guy did, and he was using this really awesome touch screen monitor with a stylus to paint beautiful pictures.
Well, I've got a touchscreen monitor and a stylus, but I don't paint beautiful pictures. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad, or something like that.
You're way farther ahead than I am.
I have a piece of paper I kind of draw on with a crayon.
And we know how good your drawings is because your stalker likes what your work does, Killerfish.
Yes.
And by stalker,
Thanks.
I'm referring to my nephew.
Yes. Your 10-year-old nephew has decided to stalk me for some reason.
That actually is not a joke. That actually is really happening.
Very cool.
Well.
The coolest costumes that I saw this year was a centaur, and this guy totally had pulleys
this was good.
jerry-rigged onto his back feet from his front feet, and they were diagonal from his left front foot to his right back foot and vice versa, so that when he moved one foot, it was the opposite foot in the back moving just like a horse does.
Awesome.
That was really cool.
Yeah, it was very well done. There were also a couple of guys that looked like they popped out of Monty Python's Holy Grail.
Run away!
King Arthur and his squire, and they had coconuts. And the squire was clapping the coconuts around as they galloped through the convention center.
Yes, no, making a crowd, in which case they were stuck. Yes, we're stuck in traffic here with our cantering horses. So
It was so funny.
Did you see No Face?
Did I see who?
No Face.
No.
The character from Spirited Away. I don't think either of us did.
I don't remember that.
I've got an image. I'll pull it up.
We also
Talk.
this year was
from MythBusters.
Yeah, it actually was.
So,
Because what he does, for those people who are unaware, each and every year, Adam Savage does for one day. He goes to everyone and basically goes in there, puts a tweet on his. I'll show that to her, later, Homer, goes to... puts a tweet on his up, and he says, a hint, and this year the hint was, I had something that disagreed with me. And instantly people immediately guessed that it was him dressed as No-Face.
I actually rode an elevator with him last year. He was a zombie stormtrooper.
Jolene, tell him how you figured out how you can pinpoint people like Adam Savage.
They're not wearing a badge. They have this really fancy costume or mask on, and they're not wearing a badge, and no one cares that they're not wearing a badge.
Huh.
With everyone else, if you cannot do or go anywhere without a badge. But there are certain people that are even, sometimes they'll even be accompanied by a handler.
Yeah, which was the case with Adam Savage, because they kind of had the prize that was given away, and he always does his little prize. That's why he does his little fan thing.
Right.
Yeah, and apparently it took half an hour for someone to actually guess it was him.
Cool.
Although he had some fun, because one of the things was he did actually got into the character, which was he just sort of bowed, he didn't say anything, and then he was slowly open up his hand, and there'll be some gold coins in it. And so the first people that saw it were a bunch of Japanese girls apparently, and when he did the hand in the gold thing, they all sort of jumped back a bit. Because they know that's bad.
Oh no. Funny.
Well, for those who are not familiar with the actual background, if you've only seen the Disney version, which is, by the way, still well done, fantastically Americanized version of the show, the actual original Japanese context was not just a bathhouse, it is a whorehouse.
Ah.
It is. No, actually, it is.
I didn't realize that.
There's actually multiple references in there, because with the name, part of it is with Sent losing her name. The design of the bathhouse is actually what a whorehouse would have looked like in 16th, 15th century.
Yeah,
Japan.
Yeah. That was the tell for the Japanophiles who watched it, but. Disney did such a good job of making it so that the message was still there without it having those heavy overtones, because it's that the younger girls working in the adult entertainment industry, we'll call it, is a major problem in Japan, but it's not a major problem here. Well, in order to get airtime at all here in the States, they had to remove some of that stuff, but they wanted to keep the message, and they did a really good job. This is one of those rare cases where they actually did something of a rewrite. They did a redubbing of the voices, and it actually turned out to be just as good. And the original creator, he basically says, while the original had its intended audience, this is fantastic. I love this version just as much as the original. And that says a lot.
Yeah, although I will say that there can be localizations that can work, because there's just things that won't work. For instance, someone making jokes about a certain street in Tokyo. Clearly, that's going to be an international audience getting that one.
Exactly.
Yeah. What I was going to say is that movie kind of spun me out at the end, because I realised, if you've not watched it, there's one character that gets transformed into a small thing, and 3 heads get transformed into a facsimile of that character originally. And by the end, nobody's rectified this at all. And I'm thinking, hang on a second, what happened to that character? he was a baby who was turned into a small fluffy thing, and then the 3 heads were turned into a baby. And, what's happening?
You did have the 3 heads went back to being just the heads again, and the baby was actually chose to go back to normal, but had the choice of going back to being the mouse. Yes, spoilers away, but it's a 10-year-old film.
This is the Bunnycast.
Anyway, back to the
Also,
point.
for anyone that cares about spoilers, Jesus dies in the end.
But he comes back.
Anyway, back to the points. Back to Comic-Con.
You volunteered.
Anyway, when One of the things that we did this year that we haven't done in the past was to go to the art show. Which, if you do get a chance to go to Comic-Con, definitely go to the art show. Handmade crafts by all sorts of people doing all sorts of stuff. Just amazing work. In clay, in wood, in metal, steampunk stuff. Oh yeah, recycled stuff. There was a robot made of recycled stuff. There was...
Did it breathe fire?
No. There was... There was jewelry that was homemade and clothes and art, like printed art. Shh, bear?
There was actually and this was gorgeous. At first it looks just like a picture frame. And then you realize, wait a minute, there's something in that frame. And then you realize, wait a minute, this is an iPad. Somebody had made out of wood with some brass fittings and some piping, basically a frame for an iPad that made it look like this was a steampunk iPad.
Awesome.
Now, it did cost $500. So you're basically spending the same amount as another iPad to make your iPad look like a steampunk iPad, but it was completely non-invasive, and it even had, burned into the wood, the Apple logo on the back.
Which is ironic because that actually, even with all that work in that price, it's still cheaper and better when Apple released their brass computer.
No,
I get the reference.
20th anniversary of Apple. They released the brass version of their computer. It cost $7,500, and it was not a very good version of the computer because it was really cheap components. You're basically paying for the metal.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
that was in the 90s.
Back to the art show. I'm actually probably going to put things in the art show next year. So I can actually earn money while I'm spending money.
Hooray!
Capitalism at work, people.
Absolutely. There was on the show floor these guys walking around in scuba suits. Now, this is insane, but what really kicked it off was when you look up, hello, there's sharks over them. There were. I mean, it obviously wasn't real sharks, but you look up and there's these inflated.
So that's
balloon
what
things.
those were.
Yeah, and it was advertising. Okay, first off, the Doctor Who people really missed a shot. They really could have. They really could have. They've done this brilliant tie-in with the last Christmas special.
I thought that's what it was for. When I saw
thought
it
at first too, because we first saw these in the middle of doing this big old scavenger hunt for the Doctor Who booth. And I look up and I'm all, "Oh, you got to be kidding!"
What was it actually for? That's the one thing that no one's actually
Discovery
said.
Channel. Discovery
Shark Week?
Channel.
Yeah.
Shark Week.
Oh, thank God. No, because I was fearing it could have been something like Shark Attack 3D or even Ghost Shark Attack. Okay. Yes, there is actually a film about a ghost shark that attacks people. It really does exist. They're actually in the third sequel at the moment.
Is it the Ghost of Jules?
No, it's a Kiwi film.
Ah, right. Okay, yeah, enough said. Thanks, Lee.
Oh yes, and on the show floor, I lost count of the number of Doctor Who cosplays there were.
No doubt.
I remember when
in every variety.
There were so many fezzes.
And fezzes with booths on them.
They had a life-size TARDIS police booth set up. They had sonic screwdrivers. Every single version of the sonic screwdriver was available on sale.
Oh.
Yeah, I just got to ask a question. Did anyone, because there were so many Fezes, did anyone actually cosplay as a Fez?
No.
No, but there were lots of TARDISes and lots of.
Yes, people dressed as the TARDIS.
There were
Yes,
lots
I've seen
of.
There's a bunch of images online for sexy TARDIS. That's actually what they referred to the cosplay as.
There were lots of Daleks.
Daleks.
I'm sorry, I'm picking up
Daleks.
quite a bit of interference here. Let me just fix that.
Stop it!
You lucky. I want a River Song screwdriver.
Yes, they did have River Song's sonic screwdriver.
Yeah. How far are you into the Doctor Who series?
We've seen
now?
everything up to the most recently aired episode. We had not seen that one, but they did.
That's the last in the last season.
The panel spoiled the hell out of it, so it's not like we don't know what happened.
So the When a Good Man Goes to War, basically.
Yeah.
Right, we haven't seen that one.
Not because we didn't want to, but because the version we procured through a totally legitimate and not pirated source, the sound synchronization was
Yarg!
the sound synchronization was off by like a full 2-3 seconds.
Oh, that really spoils it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll probably have to save up to get it on iTunes.
A lot of people have said that they saw it coming, but I say it was actually worth the wait to find out what the secret of River Song was.
Well,
part of the secret of River Song.
Yeah, there's tons of secrets of River Song.
But anyway, one of the cool costumes that we saw in the panel, there was a kid who asked a question of the panel, and she was dressed like a weeping angel.
Ah.
And she was someone did her makeup and hair and everything so wonderfully.
It was phenomenal.
Everyone saw her and went, "Oh!"
I mean, yeah,
Isn't it cute? She's just about to murder us.
They had all of these Daleks, which was cool, and a couple of people. It was one of those moments where you're like, yes, it's nice that you have the voice modulator inside the Dalek suit that you are wearing on the Comic-Con floor and going up to the Doctor Who panel and getting on the microphone. But please stop. Just ask your damn question.
Yeah.
But all these Dalek costumes, and the thing that knocked everybody's socks off the most was this little girl dressed as the Weeping Angel.
Yeah.
It's always good when you pick a creature that's not been overly saturated on the media.
Right.
To
Yeah.
go as. Because Daleks have literally been done to death.
Oh yes.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, sure, they're considered the scariest monster in Doctor Who because they're in the mythology. They're just as powerful as the Time Lords were.
Right.
But when you want to choose to go as a Doctor Who monster, try to look for one that nobody else would go for.
Right.
And somebody would look at you and go, "Oh
The
yes,
candy
I
monster.
remember that one."
Let's not do the candy monster.
In the vein of Doctor Who stuff, there was a booth that was following the trends so well. It was a booth I like to go to. It's called Pendragon Costuming, and they sell corsets and steampunk stuff and stuff like that. And they were selling TARDIS decorated corsets and corset dresses. They also had some Doctor Who stuff that was steampunk.
I could make a joke with those corsets, but I'm also thinking at the same time I shouldn't.
That's all right. Just the knowledge that Squato is blushing, or not Squato, Killerfish is blushing is enough for me.
I hate your transatlantic telepathy.
I didn't even understand what was going on. So, thanks for explaining. Yeah, there are pictures of me wearing some of the corsets from the show floor on my Facebook posts. Didn't win this year, but
go.
Wow, we got some interference. All right, everybody hold off a minute. All right, Jolene, go.
No, I can still hear it.
Jolene?
I can hear it too.
Yeah. All right, try now.
It's clear.
I think it was me crashing a TARDIS into the fibre optics.
Did it explode?
Yes, but then it came back together again.
Oh, good. I must say, I would love, if I'm going to cosplay as anyone, I would love to dress as the TARDIS when she was personified.
Oh, yes.
And the Doctor's Wife, for those who are interested in which episodes she's referring to specifically. Okay, so we've...
Was it apparent? I heard that there was people who cosplayed but as the Silence, but I hadn't actually seen any images of that. Did you actually see any people doing?
Do I need to make the joke?
Go.
They were cosplayed as what?
The Silence.
Oh, that's awful.
Sorry, I
Yes,
don't remember,
I know the joke.
don't remember who these people are.
But in all seriousness, there was people that were saying it was good, but the only images that they actually were taking was kind of a quick snap, and that was all they'd actually done. And there was apparently people cosplaying as it.
There
was
is.
bad ones that cosplayed it.
Well, the thing is, there's so much going on, and there are so many people that it's really hard sometimes to get a photo because someone could like totally walk in front while you're doing it, or the people are going by so quickly you're trying to snap it before they totally disappear.
Yeah. Okay,
So
it's been about a half an hour since we started recording. As awesome as it is to reminisce about Comic-Con, and we have tons of material we could cover, let's take a little break and talk about money making for the podcast. As we did discuss earlier in this recording segment, which for the listeners will be the last posted episode of the podcast, we do have enough cash on hand from donations from our good listeners to be able to purchase a domain name or two for the Bunnycast and Bunnyco, which that money is going to be used to good purpose as soon as we can get the squatters to move their butts.
You're breaking up.
yeah, totally.
Sorry.
What are you looking at me for?
Sorry, it's an ingrained reflex whenever something's wrong.
So, going back and starting over, we are going to be using the currently donated cash to purchase domain name and miscellany for the podcast. Jim at Shastrix and I are talking about possibly moving to a new server and all this kind of good stuff that we're currently working on with the currently donated monies. But the next major project is to do an equipment upgrade to the recording station that is currently sitting in front of me at my desk. So we will announce when those goals start up, and hopefully we will be able to get some good audience participation and be able to get lots and lots of monies. So we're going to move on to the reviews. Hold on. All right, so before we move on to the next segment, does anybody else want to talk about anything with any last minute things with Comic-Con? Make it quick.
I'll do the ones that the bad ones that people pointed out. Apparently they had for NCIS they had a flash dance organised outside the con because that makes sense for the show.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. They had
like a flash mob thing.
no flash dance, as in people that went into a dance and they basically did like you see hip hop dancing, that type of thing.
That's what a flash mob is.
No, flash mob is that you'll have people will actually come up and say,
Well,
they'll suddenly
Squato,
start.
they did it in a flash mob style. That's what she's talking about.
Okay. No, but there is actually things organised flash mobs, and they're very different. Another one they had for Spider-Man, they had a monster truck because Spider-Man has a monster truck.
Hang on, let me get my encouragement device to get me to forget that.
The TV show Bird Girls Club tried to crash Comic-Con because they didn't have anything to do with it, so they had these cars that kept driving around it. And no one gives a damn about the show anymore because that made perfect sense. Same with the people that designed a Tweety Bird mini for it. And Jane's Addiction that released their drink range there and had nothing to do with Comic-Con. Don't worry, if you wanted to go into something fun, you got Kevin Smith's shoes, which have his face on them. So he can look up at your soul.
Ow. Okay, I think I've forgotten how to do mathematics now.
Well, you could have
There are
some fun.
there's so many totally awesome things that you can, do that, it totally outweighs the other stuff. I mean, South Park created their downtown scene for South Park in San Diego, in the Gaslamp Quarter, down the street from the convention center.
Yeah, and they also had, there was other things that were done there as well, like, for instance, I had it for a second, The Legend of Korra. However you pronounce it. The new Avatar episode was, the new Avatar show that's coming out. The trailer for that, if you have not seen it, stop listening to this right now and go look at that straight away.
Come back! Don't listen to Squato, come back!
No, but it is seriously...
The views and opinions expressed by the guests and hosts of this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the network.
Amen.
But then again, with the good, you've got the funny ones, or things that are unintentionally funny. For instance, they had Captain America advertising Norton the End virus because it makes perfect sense that a World War II hero in a film set in World War II would be fighting against spammers.
What does David Hasselhoff speaking in German have anything to do with firewalls?
I'm talking about the last one.
I know, but history has proven that Symantec chooses these absolutely ridiculous choices for their advertising.
I think it's the firewall thing comes from David.
Don't try it. Don't try it.
Being
Don't
there
stop.
at Berlin
You're going to hurt yourself.
And I think the other one with Captain America is because he has a shield. Perhaps. Brain.
Pull back. Pull back.
I think we lost him.
That way, we can get him back because people did have fun with the ones they didn't like. For instance, with True Blood. Now, True Blood had previously done a lot of exciting and interesting advertisements in the past. For instance, with the elevator ones, if you press the buttons, it looked like it was vampire fangs. For this one, they just had photos and people just wrote over them because it looked stupid. They got their own back.
Yes.
But the stupid one would be the cage shark that was, the half a cage shark which was outside the Comic-Con event, which was actually advertising Shark 3D. And by a shark cage, I mean they kind of just put a cage there, put a fake shark in it, and that was all they did. They didn't even have any, other than a sign saying Shark 3D, that was all its advertising budget was. And apparently that was a lot of money.
All right, let's move on to reviews so we get over this badness.
Yeah.
All right, because I anticipate mine's going to go long, let's start off with the Cute Ninja. You are reviewing an app for us.
Yes. It's called Pocket Money, and I am absolutely loving it. I usually review like free apps or prefer getting free apps, but this one is definitely worth getting. It's $5 and do your budget, helps you track your money. It helps with making sure things are not just pending. Hello?
Hey, hello.
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay. For a minute there, it sounded like I had been cut off.
Yeah.
No, we just didn't hear Faye for a second. That was good.
Freya, sit down. You're not supposed to be standing on your bed. Anyway, the app is just very, very handy, and you can sync it to your desktop if you want it on your desktop, and you can sync it to another device, which is really great, as Chris and I are a couple, and we need to know what's going on. Both of us need to know what's going on with the accounts so that we're not, messing things up for ourselves. And it's very good at doing the math. I'm not good at doing math, and I'm so glad I just punch in the numbers and it does the math for me.
Hooray!
Yes.
We can leave our lives to the machines whilst we have fun, and then the uprising will come.
Yes.
Matrix joke.
Oh, I thought it was Dune.
Yes, that was already the implication. You didn't actually have to say it was a Matrix joke.
No, Matrix jokes are just so common and so dated because, hey, the Wachowski brothers actually made their own great some Matrix jokes. They were called the last two Matrix films.
Haha!
So just yelling it, it's the joke.
So what's really cool is you can set up reports and filters and other kinds of things to look at your finances in different ways, so you know exactly what's going on and what to expect. And very excellent tool.
Awesome.
Okay, so thank you. Killerfish, let's move on to your review. Tell us what your review.
Right. People may or may not be aware, I've gotten onto Steam, and I'm a bit of an old fogey when it comes to Steam because I don't really understand how it works. And I have to ask people to help me working out. But
He can't hit it with a hammer, in other words.
yeah. But I did manage to download some games, and I've been playing some. And one of them that I've been
was
playing...
that?
I think Squato collapsed. Anyway.
Oh, good. We might end on time.
Yes. One of the games I've been playing recently has been Braid, which is a game you can download on the Xbox 360 as well. And it's this little 16-bit-esque type platform game.
The color is more rich than you would actually get out of 16-bit, but that's the first impression people get.
Yeah.
Is, boy, this looks like 16-bit, but then your brain
The base version of it actually is, and the original version, but that's because the guy actually just was able to spend the money the smart way and actually got some artists in to do the background and things like that. So the gameplay, yes, it's 16-bit, but the artwork is not.
It actually works well with this game. It's you go through the game and you die, and then suddenly you realise, hang on a second, if you push that button, you rewind time. And if you push another button whilst you're rewinding time, you can speed yourself up, going backwards in time. So you have to get your head around a new mechanic for playing platform games.
It is a new mechanic.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that if you want to think about how the gameplay operates and how the story operates, it's very reminiscent of Super Mario until you add the ability to do the rewinding of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that Super Mario point is actually a big thing, because some people I know, particularly those people apparently have not actually played Nintendo games before, they don't catch that point. But yes, the Jonathan Blow, the guy that created the game, was specifically thinking in mind Mario games. The other thing he was wanting to do with it was he wanted to make it a more highbrow type of game for people that read books. That's a direct quote, I should actually say.
Yeah, you can so tell it's got the Super Mario references in it, to the plants which go up to snapping at you, to your princess is in another castle reference.
Yeah.
And then you get into those highbrow references.
Yeah, but it's a nice little game. It's got the I enjoy playing it, even though there are moments when I'm thinking, how am I supposed to get that one thing which does not change in time, whilst I can rewind time to go to a certain place without having the snappy creatures get up at it? It makes sense to me.
If it sounds like we're praising something that's a 25 some odd year old game mechanic, it's not. The ability to rewind completely changes everything about how you play the game.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean...
In fact, there is some levels where you start out going backwards.
Yes.
Yeah. There's even things like keys, which you have to open doors, but there are some keys which you can pick up and then rewind time and you've still got the key, even though normally with a key you would drop it at the point where you started to rewind time. The keys which don't do that, you can pick them up and you can travel backwards in time with the keys and then continue on from that point on. It's
it's a trip. It's something to do. There's demos available. Killerfish, is there a demo on Steam? I know the demo's available on the Xbox.
Hang on.
I'm checking right now.
I don't know, but if anybody wants to actually see what the gameplay looks like, I do know that they've got videos of people playing the game on YouTube. So,
demo, yes.
Okay, so there's demos on Steam and demos on Xbox 360. So
currently 5,036 people recommend that game.
Unless you are a Mac
5,037.
Unless you're a PowerPC based Mac user who owns a PlayStation 3 and has never even looked at an Xbox or a PC, chances are you have something that will run this. So just get it and download it. It's a good. The demo gives you enough of the gameplay and teases you with enough of there is more puzzle here that it's like every time I play the game, I actually have to consciously stop myself from playing the game to kill time, because every time I play the game, I get to the point where the demo ends and I'm all, it's only a few dollars, I should buy it.
For the record, it's actually, for those people who want to get on Steam or anything like that, $10 currently, but it's one that they do kind of regularly put on discount.
Yeah, I got it.
It's similarly priced for Xbox. Of course, they use the Xbox point system, so I could never tell exactly how much it costs.
Yeah. Do we want to actually cover anything on the story part? Because that kind of is a rather large part with it.
No, because honestly, you can play the entire game, skip past the story screens, and still enjoy it.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that they don't get what the whole thing is trying to reference with it, even when the big thing actually happens at the end.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, for those people that are, if you don't want to hear this, basically do whatever you want to block out the sound for the next few seconds. Okay, basically what it's about is the Trinity test. No, it's not actually a joke. The whole story is actually about the development of the very first atomic weapon by humanity. That's why, if you notice the quotes, they're actually not from Oppenheimer, well, except for one, but there's a lot of them from the other people that were actually working on the development of the nuclear weapon. That's even why, when you actually come to the very last level, when you come up to save the princess is actually trying to run away from you, because when you actually do catch her, and you only have to catch her in for a 3 seconds run, you've only got one chance for that small amount of time. When you catch her, you hear a boom, and the screen just goes white.
Wow.
It actually is about the development of the nuclear weapons, and it took the guy, Jonathan Blow, 2.5 years to actually confirm it, but people had been working it out for years from those small references, because they went and analysed it. They analysed the messages, they analysed the visual impacts, and they were able to see the exact points. It's about that whole thing.
So, not a kid's game.
It's a kid's game, it's the type of kid's game that you're going to get layers in.
Yes. Ogres are like onions.
What about parfait? Everybody loves parfait.
No! We're onions.
Okay, so Squato, you were going to do the Deus Ex games.
Yes. Well, okay, I will make this one clear for people because Deus Ex is actually coming out soon. It actually will come out before the next Bunnycast. More directly for me, it will come out 2 days beforehand, which means I unfortunately will not have actually been able to have played it along to have given more than a cursory review of it at that stage, but I actually intend to do the next week, do a proper review of, the next cast after that, so 52, will actually be, my review will be Human Revolution. Now, for the first one, I'm actually doing the very first game, more specifically the Game of the Year edition, which you can get on Steam, and a small bit of Invisible War, because I've played a little bit of that just to sort of get an idea. Now, the first one, okay, the first one is one of those games you honestly do have to play. Be aware, though, it is a 10-year-old game.
Right.
For a few reasons. The layout of the menus, they are old. The graphics are old. In fact, they weren't actually top of the line even then, which is a big point because you look at the graphics for Deus Ex Human Revolution and that, oh dear God, are they beautiful. But this one, they kind of are ugly. Don't let that hold you back. Honestly, that is, if you feel the graphics are bad, you're going to miss out on probably one of those really, really great stories.
So it's more story-driven than graphics-driven?
Well, it was a very strong graphics. The graphics were good at the time, but it's sort of they don't age. They have not as aged as well because there's a lot of stylized choices they put into the game. So there tends to be a bit of darker things and stuff like that. And you come into those areas that just sort of looks ugly.
So what's the game about, basically?
I'll say one thing with the visuals. Perfect Dark on the 64 looks to have aged better. That's what I want to make on this graphics.
Okay. What's the game about?
The game about, that's what I was wanting to come up to. Basically, it's set... Yes, Freya. That's what she...
Yes.
She covered it all there. No, the story is set in the mid-century of this century. You're basically... First mission is you're in the center for... I've got to actually get the name for them. It's a UN group. United Nations Anti-Terrorist Coalition, or YENTCO.
Right.
Basically, they're a group that was formed in the years... a couple of years beforehand, basically because there was a growing level of unrest and terrorism around the planet, so this was an organization formed to basically combat in that. And they are one of the groups. Now, they're the one that you work for initially, but that is one group. There is 2 other big groups, and effectively all of these groups are trying to rule the world in one way or another.
Of course.
You basically get to play as... The character you play is J.C. Denton. Yes, the J.C. is actually is a reference to Jesus Christ because your player is effectively a savior. Basically what happens is that you go in the world and you get to move around doing things and doing the research. Now you have what is big, and this is the thing that this game did very successfully then, and a lot of other games have actually been able to take from since, is you have a branching gameplay. What that means is that you can come into an area, you'll have an option, say, depending on what you do and how you interact with things, it will impact how the ending of the story goes. Not just in the way characters interact with you, but also in the way that the story is ultimately told. The new one's doing really getting into that mechanics, but in this one, they did it very, very well.
Okay.
Particularly because it's not just that, but it's also the way you play. And for a great example, you can play as someone that goes around and shooting everything, or you can play as some, which is not actually a good idea because the enemies, they shoot better than you can. But
Yeah.
if you want to go around shooting everything, yeah, go ahead and do that. Don't expect to last very long. What you can do is you can play sneaky, you can play as anything, and one of the things you can do is you can actually play with the climactic, basically not kill anyone. In fact, you do get a small reward in-game for doing that, which is that because some of the other characters in that are watching you, and if you don't go around killing anyone, you can get a reward for it, which is access to some content you wouldn't have got otherwise, information, things like that. And that's one of the other things, is you're playing in the world, there's these people trying to take over it. You're ultimately the one that decides who gets to be the one that goes over and is able to become the new world order afterwards.
I see.
So it's a lot of things in there. There's a lot of references. And yes, one of the big things in this game is about conspiracies. Because, okay, some of the players that are involved with this include the United States government, the Illuminati, Majestic 12, Area
The
50
Illuminators.
go to. In fact, the Illuminati are actually one of the groups that's an enemy in there, including the Federal Emergency Management Agency, who was actually controlled by someone else, and things like that. There is a lot of things on there, and these people are they've got these sort of ideas. Some of them they don't like the world as how it's been going, so they want it to actually because it's become too technological, and that's one thing. The new game, if you look at it, you see that they've got the argumentations going on, which is people have replaced body parts with actual machines. In this one, some cases has happened, but it's more nano machines have actually been able to be integrated into these people, so effectively they're actually walking manufacturers.
Yeah.
And they're effectively wired into the world, so that they're not disconnected from anything. And these people could walk through the streets and you could not even tell that they're actually wired up. Unless you dropped an EMP, which might cause a problem for them. But that's But yeah, so there's things like that, and that's when I come up with the nanobots, because one of the groups is actually trying to release a nanovirus so that they can actually use the sale of the cure for it to basically be able to dominate the world. And that's why I said you've also got the others that want to basically revert the world back to a pre-technological state and things like that. Now, this is one of the things. When it comes to these groups, now, particularly when I make the point with the pre-technological state, a lot of people will go Luddites and not want anything to do with them. The game was smart enough to actually make all the different groups be equally villainous and yes. So you actually can decide who was the right one from what's going on. And they're all just as bad as each other. They're all just as dirty as each other. And they're all just as right as each other. So, honestly...
So it's not the lesser of 3 or 4 evils, but which one you can live with.
Well, it's multiple things on it. It's also a case of, which is the lesser of the evils and which one can you live with. But also, they did an interesting thing of making you actually get, which is something that a lot of games that try this don't do, which is that you're actually, how your character would actually act in it. Because they've done some clever tricks into the game where you're not so much playing a character, but you're actually doing as what the character would do. That is a very important point because, as I said, you're not playing the character, you're trying to act like the character, which is kind of like a good role play.
Right.
So, that does a very good job. If you're really worried about the graphic style, there is a bunch of sites out there on the internet which actually show you, where people have done HD upgrades for it, so it looks pretty impressive nowadays. So it's more up to the current standards. That's if you really don't like the art style. As to the size of it, it's only something like about, 900 megs, and I think it's only about $10 or something like that on Steam. But it's a bit of gaming history. Yes, there's bits of it that are out of date in terms of how they did it then, but it's well worth playing.
I remember when those system requirements were extreme.
Oh, yes. And you look at that, it's like, oh, okay, I can download this in about half an hour.
Yeah.
Saying that, the sequel, Deus Ex, Invisible War, or Deus Ex. First off, this game is actually more geared towards the console market. The way I mean by that is the interface, the way it works. It actually is, because this is sort of back in those days when they were sort of trying to go, a lot of the games which were being made for PC were sort of getting into consoles, so it was not as exclusive, but the problem is that they could either go, in this case, too far, or they didn't go far enough.
Yeah.
This is one that went too far, to the point where it actually meant the PC version was the weaker version as to what you get nowadays, which is all are equal, mostly.
Right.
That really feels like the Xbox version, particularly because I played the demo of it to make sure that version, the Xbox version, feels to be the stronger one. One other problem with the sequel, as opposed to the original one, you actually had to always use guns. Now that might not sound like much.
Well, it sounds like it's defeating the purpose of the original.
Yeah, because it's original. You could go through, you could harm people, knock them out, but you couldn't kill anyone. Fortunately, with the new one, with the sequel, there was times you actually had to kill people. Yes, they kind of tried to, at least in some cases, make it a case of, oh, this is sort of karmatic retribution because this is an evil person that is clearly done so wrong that they cannot be valuable, but that they cannot survive in the world. But it takes away that sort of idea that you actually are deciding, as opposed to you're just playing. But when I come to that later, I will actually go into it because I will explore the story a bit more. I have not played enough to actually really come up to too firm a decision on that one.
Right.
But the first one really is worth getting.
Right. Okay. Great. So I guess that brings us to my review.
You're breaking up, Homer, sorry.
I guess that brings us to my review.
Yeah, I hear that perfectly. So, no problems from me.
Yeah, it's all
just Squato.
It's all your fault, Squato.
Yay.
Man, you're such an easy target today. Okay.
Lack of sleep, yay.
I am reviewing a My Little Pony fanfic called Past Sins. And part of the reason I'm reviewing it is this dovetails nicely with the fanfic discussions that we've been having, especially the discussion where we had it last recording, I believe it was, about Mary Sue's.
Mm-hmm.
Past Sins, it was...
Which, if you don't know what a Mary Sue and this is your first time you're hearing it, TV tropes, go from that.
Exactly.
If you don't know what a Mary Sue is, chances are you are one.
So,
unless you don't exist, then how the hell are you actually listening to the podcast?
Get back to work! Anyways.
Go back to non-existence.
So, Past Sins was released to, I believe it was Equestria Daily, almost like the day or two after we did our last recording. So there wasn't even any chance for us to have it on our radar before then. And of course, after that, there was the larger hiatus for the Comic-Con to occur. In that time, the authors, there's two of them, released 15 chapters, rewrote those 15 chapters, and released 3 more. And they're expected to release between 2 and 4 more chapters to wrap the whole thing up. So it's going to end up being a 20 to 22 chapter fanfic, which is a decent...
So effectively a series.
You don't read much fanfic.
No. How long the series is so far. It's a joke.
I suppose you could say that, but the episodes or the chapters are not really episodes per se. It's not really episodically written. It is intended to be read as one larger body of work.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the premise, or here's the synopsis, I should say. The synopsis is that there's this cult that worships the banished, or not the banished.
I've got to check. By cult, you mean
a cult?
C-O or C-U?
Okay, fair enough. C-U-L-T, a cult that worships the now destroyed Nightmare Moon. They are it opens up in medias res. The cult is in the middle of resurrecting Nightmare Moon, using a bit of blood from Twilight plus the scraps of Nightmare Moon that were left over after the Elements of Harmony destroyed Nightmare Moon. The spell is interrupted by Princess Celestia and her royal guard swooping in, arresting the bulk of the cult. The leaders of the cult make their escape. Twilight's rescued, healed, etc. She goes back home. Chapter 1 opens up with Twilight Sparkle looking for a book and then realizing she had the book on her when she was kidnapped. So the book must still be wherever the kidnappers left it. So she uses a spell to find her bags at that location where the ritual had taken place, and she's getting her bags and she hears something in a bush, and there's some thunder, and the scene culminates in Twilight finding a little alicorn filly that has the same eyes, the same coat, the same wings and horn, everything as Nightmare Moon, but she's just this little tiny, basically the functional equivalent of a little girl, right?
Should we be calling this pony Damien, or what is the female version of Damien?
Well, the pony's name is Nyx, N-Y-X. And if you look up Nyx in Wikipedia, Nyx is a goddess of the night, and I believe related to horses. So, the authors did their homework there. Nyx is the name that Twilight has given her. She has no memory of anything that happened before the ritual and waking up in the middle of the forest after everybody already clears out. And Twilight starts to raise Nyx almost as though she were her own daughter. They come up with a cover story of this is Twilight's visiting cousin from out of town. Now, unbeknownst to Twilight and to Princess Celestia, the cult is starting to try to find out what went wrong, see if there's any way they can recover, and resume the operation of trying to bring Nightmare Moon back. To go any further would be to introduce tons and tons and tons of spoilers, so I won't go too much farther. Other than to say that Nyx turns out to be fairly powerful magically, as one would expect a alicorn to be, when the alicorns in this universe are capable of moving entire celestial bodies.
That old thing?
Now,
just bring a Death Star down on it.
Here's... Oh, good Lord. Okay, here's where the controversy starts. There are many, many people who have read this fanfic, and once they get to a certain point, they'll start crying Mary Sue in regards to this character, Nyx.
I was actually about to say that before I did that. That it almost sounded like you were saying that's not a Mary Sue.
Nyx is indeed not a Mary Sue character. And in some ways, whether or not a character is Mary Sue is almost like the Supreme Court's definition of porn. You know it when you see it. However, there are certain things that make it very evident whether or not a character is a Mary Sue.
Everybody likes me instantly. I know all the solutions to the problems and I have powers that can solve them without any...
And everyone
problems.
loves me.
Exactly. Now,
I have many mystical animal companions who have special powers and they talk to me.
The thing about Nyx as a character was that there was never any overpower to this character. Sure, they were an alicorn, which in this universe equates roughly to a goddess, but the writing never treated her that way. She was never... Freya.
She's trying to scare me.
I think he's trying to scare everyone that listens.
She's throwing foam pieces from her puzzle of the world at me and saying boo.
Funny you said that because my nephew just said boo when you said that at the exact same time. He just poked his head right through the door.
So, anyways,
I think he wants to be in Killerfish's nightmares now.
in the hands of any other writer that wasn't as good as these two writers have proven to be, this Nyx could very easily have been a Mary Sue character, especially in the way that Mary Sue stories usually go, where, you know, if any actual serious challenge is posed, it's almost like, oh yeah, well now I'm fighting with my true dominant hand. I was never left-handed.
Nice. Although I kind of have to check on that one if you actually were being it was a good thing or a slightly being sarcastic about the line.
I was being sarcastic about that.
Because the original actually is a really brilliantly, they did it.
If you're talking about The Princess Bride, yes, you're right. That was well done. Which, you know, that's let's talk about the parallels in terms of the characters. Wesley, in this case, could easily have been accused of being a Mary Sue, because you know, he's this humble character that instantly falls in love with the main female lead, and then goes off to go on adventures, becomes the Dread Pirate Roberts, the most powerful pirate in the world, and then comes back and not only beats the best swordsman in the world, but also the giant and somebody claiming to be the best brain in the world, and then goes on to defeat the prince and organize the rescue of the princess and all this kind of thing, and even comes back from the dead.
It's only mostly dead.
So how is that any less of a Mary Sue than Nyx, who is this filly who has the powers and stature of a goddess, who is likable to the audience, if not necessarily the other characters in the story, and winds up, you know, going through all these adventures. And it's like, okay, there's a difference between a Mary Sue, which comes in, dominates the story, and is only has appeal to the person who wrote it, and a character that happens to be well written, happens to actually have a good level of power, happens to be something that appeals to the audience, and happens to come out in the end, you know, fairly well. There's a huge difference between a well-written, very powerful character that comes through an adventure story well, and a Mary Sue, which they might as well not even have gone through an adventure at all, because they walked through Doom with the cheat codes.
Yeah.
Or, you know, have the rock being played by them.
Basically, the way I see it is, if there is no character growth on a character, and they've just skated through an entire adventure and there's no character growth at all, they've not learned anything, they've not become a better person for the story, why bother writing the story? And that character is a Mary Sue.
Exactly. Now, in the case of Nyx has to learn and grow. Now, if, like, I'm going to do just a teensy little bit of spoilage and propose an alternate universe of what if the cultists returned to the scene of the crime as soon as the Royal Guard cleared out. They would have found Nyx at that point and been... First off, they wouldn't have called her Nyx. They would have called her Queen Nightmare Moon. They would have continued the ritual. They would have brought back Nightmare Moon. And if the story continued from that point, treating that version of Nyx / Nightmare Moon as the main character, then it would have been a Mary Sue, because the ultimate goal of Nightmare Moon was to take over the kingdom.
Of course.
And have these followers that would have created this nighttime paradise for all ponies for the rest the rest of her reign, which would have effectively been forever because she would have killed Princess Celestia and Princess Luna, destroyed the elements of harmony, and basically nothing would have opposed her. That would have been
kind of like the blanks. Sorry, just the way you were saying that, I was trying to think of that game, and the name became me. Story of the Blanks.
No idea.
Don't get the reference. Move back to what we're saying.
It's a fan
Don't
game.
Don't get the reference. I like.
Okay,
song.
short version of it. It's a fan game for My Little Pony. The best way to describe it is it's My Little Pony meets a Cthulhu mythos.
Aha.
Right. Okay.
So, in any case,
it's real.
It's
good.
That story focusing on Nightmare Moon would have been a Mary Sue because she would have had no challenges. There would have been no character growth. She would have dominated, and that would have been the end. So what? That's not a story. The story comes in this case, where Twilight is the one that picks up Nyx, starts treating her like any other filly. She has to go to school. She has to make friends. And in fact, again, tiny little spoilage alert, it's the fact that Nyx makes friends that makes all the difference. Which, hey, look at that! The series is called Friendship is Magic. Friendship! Nyx has to make friends for this to make sense and not be a freaking Mary Sue story. So, she's likable to these other characters, which also happen to be main characters in the story because it's easy to write main characters into your fan fiction. So the hell what? It works for the story. That doesn't mean it's a Mary Sue.
You feel passionate about this, didn't you?
This debate, I kid you not, on PonyChan, 5 different threads, each lasting at least 4 days before the moderators kill the thread and delete it entirely.
So they killed it with fire?
Yes. The thread pops up. Have you read this fan fiction called Past Sins? What about this character Nyx? Here's a poll. Does anybody like Past Sins? And it just keeps popping up as a subject, and every single time it devolves into this flame war about whether or not Nyx is a Mary Sue. And
clearly, orbital strikes are failing. Step it up.
Here's the flash news for you. Apparently there's a picture of Ellen behind a wall of text and a page of EGS as well. Sorry. Old school bunny joke there.
Old school.
Remember the days when people actually used to debate if that was real or not?
Oh man, that was forever ago. Good Lord. I think that was before I was even actually active on the forums.
Or the other one that the people used to debate, because he dropped the hint that there was one of these panels actually showed something that was not canon, and it was before it happened, and it was a picture of the very early version of Ellen, and people were trying to go and prove and all this, and it only ultimately was revealed when he did the book.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry to break into that, but it just reminded me of that situation so much.
And the thing is honestly, this is a very classic situation of haters gonna hate. The people who insist that any character that's not canon is going to be a Mary Sue or a self-insert. And it's like, no, sometimes to tell the story you want to tell, you have to have a new character that is not part of canon. There's the story Progress, which is considered to be one of the best fanon origin story. Backing up, Progress, which is considered to be one of the best fanon stories, focusing on Princess Luna after she comes back from her banishment, has had to include, by its very nature, original characters. And I was just talking about this the other day with the Cute Ninja. That story actually does not do as well when the author has to bring in the main 6. It's only when they are allowing Princess Luna to interact with these original characters that this story really shines. And for those who are unfamiliar, in fanon for My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Princess Luna carries around an abacus as a security item. like a security blanket. She calls this abacus Abacus and has a little pillow so that Abacus will be comfortable when Princess Luna is sleeping. And Abacus goes everywhere the Princess Luna goes. It's a joke, right? It's kind of like in the old Peanuts cartoons, Linus with his security blanket.
Mm.
The point being is that the majority of the interactions up until the Luna versus Ponyville story arc comes up are with original character ponies. And it's hilarious. It's a laugh riot. It's just some of the best writing you've ever encountered, and that's what made it popular. It's only when the main six were brought in that it started to go off the rails of being one of the best fics ever made for My Little Pony Friendship is Magic.
Which is actually one thing you made your point with, that it's people bringing these new characters. They're the Mary Sues. They cannot be with any of the original ones. How you were describing with that one, the Mary Sues actually were the original characters, the main six. Which is kind of a point of how the people play it. If there's someone that's skilled, they can come in, they can do it well. But if you got this one, they just suddenly, the main ones solve everything. They've made the original characters Mary Sues and fail.
Hello.
Freya's not happy. That's clearly they're doing it wrong.
She keeps singing and Ming Ming too.
I think Squato might have accidentally taught her to say the word Mary Sue.
Well, she's not listening, so.
But yeah, and here's the thing. Here's the ultimate test of whether or not a character is a Mary Sue. Does the story stand on its own? If the story stands on its own without any superpower intervention from the author to say that this character is the greatest, then it's not a Mary Sue. But if the author has to defend and justify this character as being the best character since sliced bread, and the story does, if that character is pulled from the story and it either falls apart or goes in a completely different direction because it would sound better if this character did this, then that character is a Mary Sue. How much does the character disturb the actual story and make it so your suspension of disbelief goes away in a heartbeat? It's torture to read. It's painful to even think about this so-called plot. That's when you start saying, this is a Mary Sue character.
Which is odd, because the way I tell if a story's good is if I say to myself, does this story work if all the characters were ponies?
He does. He does. But I was actually going to say, Homer, is that you're saying about how it's the character is the problem. To a point, yes, but there is a lot of stories really work because they're actually being driven by the characters. They're the ones that are telling the story. They're the ones that everything's being focused.
Right.
Which is kind of where you got some people that are trying to do with Mary Sue's, but they're a little bit better than others with them, but they're still Mary Sue's. That's what they're doing. But the problem is that when they're doing, the characters are driving everything. It's not the characters are driving everything. It's a case of this is the way the person that's telling the story wants these characters to be driving everything. That is really definition of Mary Sue in that case.
Well, and basically what we're both saying is that if at any point you want to just give up and discuss, not because, it's so well written that you empathize with the character so much that you don't want it to end this way, but because you're like, oh God, I can't read another word because it's like somebody's digging my eyes out with sewing needles.
This story is so good, I'm bleeding rainbows.
That's the point at which it becomes a Mary Sue. So, anyways,
we really should get a little monitor and we put each character on and see how much of a Mary Sue they are, so that people can compare and contrast how much of the Mary Sue they are not to make their characters.
Let's see. Put the main six on Twilight. Oh, goes up to about 10. Applejack. Oh, I would say about 7. Fluttershy.
You know what?
Work.
Better idea.
Peeking out about 30. Pinkie Pie breaks the scale.
Better idea. Get them into an Aperture Science lab. Leave Gladys to do her work.
Okay, yeah, we've kind of.
We're having fun with ponies.
Actually, there's another fanfic. I might have to review it now that you guys brought those two together. And we'll have to do that another time, however, because we're going to wrap this up. We're going to bring this
What's
together.
the URL for that story so people can go and read it?
Oh, past sins?
Yeah.
Honestly, the best thing to do right now is to go to Equestria Daily, and in the there's a section on the right that's most popular posts, and Past Sins has been on top of the leaderboard for most popular posts in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Here we go. So that's equestriadaily.com. And my word, the total page views are going up really, really rapidly.
So, so go to...
I've got a bit of
Equestria
breaking
Daily,
news,
popular posts.
if you want.
Is this about fanfiction, Equestria Daily, or our sponsors?
No, this is actually this is different. But this is a topic that people will be interested in, possibly. SETI. You know, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence.
Yes, it got funded.
Yeah, the telescope. Well, actually, it's because of the one for it is entirely the funding for this was entirely publicly funded because Republicans cut back the funding for it because they felt it wasn't actually worth money for it because it wasn't of interest to the public and it was a waste, and they couldn't get a private donator, and so they just asked the people to donate, and they've gotten.
You're quoting from the BBC coverage. Aren't you?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
How am I going off quote the BBC coverage?
Because the Republicans did not defund it because there wasn't enough public interest. The Republicans defunded it because we're out of freaking money. And that's as far as we're going to go on that.
Yeah.
Story. Then we're going to devolve into politics. Yes, SETI got funded. Yes, that's a good thing. Yes, they did it right. Yes, it's publicly funded. Hey, great. We're going gangbusters there. But we got to wrap things up. We've got our sponsor, such as it is. Thank you, Shastrix, for hosting the podcast. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for everything that you do for us. You can reach the Bunnycast by going to community.910cmx.com. On the forums, we do hang out there. Bunnycast@gmail.com. We do check that. Shastrix.com/bunnycast. We go there as well to see if the people have posted there. For websites and projects, I am in the middle of rehearsals for a rock and roll show, so if you happen to be in the San Diego area in another couple of weeks, I should be posting my schedule out for when those will be shortly. Squato, tell us about your YouTube stuff.
Having fun with debating with the person on YouTube because they're an idiot. And I do mean they're an idiot because this is a person that's attacking a scientist because their science is flawed, and the reason why they're flawed is because they said mean things about this person when they said that they were an idiot and wrote angry things to them in the first place. So clearly they are a mean person because they don't like when people say mean things to them.
It's basically somebody who can't take their own medicine.
No, but it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious that this is gone. I'm not joking. This person ultimately has called me someone that's an anti-scientific someone that's deeply involved with the scientific conspiracy because I'm actually the scientist who is specifically targeting this person because I cannot take the fact that their research is being questioned.
Yes, Baron von Squatovich, you are indeed the lead of the international conspiracy to make that person suffer.
So, Squato, feeding the trolls. Or the parasprites, however you're inclined. Killerfish, tell us about your thing.
My live streaming. I am live streaming a lot nowadays. All of my little live stream videos are going up, and there is a little thing which comes up on the Shastrix main page that tells you which one is the most recent one I've done. Cool. There we go.
Cute Ninja, what are you up to?
5'9". Anyway, I'm doing web design stuff, and I'm going to be setting up an Etsy site for my graphic design and also my sewing that I do.
Oh, thank you. That was painful. I hope you know that.
What was?
EGScomics.com, or follow Dan's Twitter feed at Dan the Shy. 5'9".
Yeah.
All right.
His brain's broken.
That was painful. I actually felt a little bit of pain right in my head.
Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. All of a sudden it was silent.
I'm letting you laugh. Killerfish, say goodbye.
Goodbye, Killerfish.
Haha! Caught you! Caught you! You said it wrong!
Damn. I was trying to be clever, but it didn't work.
Maybe a couple of squirrels thrown out here and there. It's a crazy world, it's twisted all up in my hair. I got you, I don't care. Sometimes I feel like I'm controlled like a hero in a comic book, baby. Chasing one day after the next. No settle down, no easy text, baby. But it makes me feel alive when you're here by my side. You complete the two of us, you make the rules apply. It's a crazy world.
The Bunnycast is a production of the Bunnycast Network. The opinions expressed on this show are those of the guests and hosts, not necessarily those of the network. The Skull Fortress is produced by 62 Sounds on ocremix.com. Crazy World is a production of Seth Jeffrey. All songs are used without permission.
I've got you, I don't care. Power in my hand, the world at my command. But now all that I want is just to be your man. It's a crazy world, in a twisted turn of reality. It's you and me, and I need you here to keep some sanity. We are but pawns in a faded game of cat and mouse. Maybe a couple of guinea pigs thrown out here and there. This crazy world is all messed up in my head. I got you, I don't care.
Welcome back to the Bunnycast, part 2 of episode 51. Thank you.
Episode 51?
I'm sorry, episode 50. Thank you, Squato. I was typing 51 earlier, and I
Suddenly we just jumped 4 episodes, or 2 episodes.
We did. No. Okay, take 2. 5, 4, 3,